Tutankhamun's mask is an icon. And I think part of it is because it is made of solid gold, and a lot of people get wowed by that.
So many tiny details are visible again.
Over recent years, speculation has mounted that the death mask originally belonged to Tutankhamun's stepmother, Nefertiti.
This may not belong to him at all.
He was even buried in someone else's coffin. Queen Nefertiti is thought to be the likely previous owner of the mask.
King Tut's golden mask stares back at you from every history book, every documentary, every museum poster. 22 pounds of pure gold. Lapis lazuli eyes, a face frozen in time for over 3,000 years. We've been told it's the ultimate symbol of ancient Egypt, the boy king's eternal portrait. A masterpiece created specifically for Tutankhamun's journey into the afterlife. But we've been lied to. In late 2024, a team of physicists smuggled a machine into the Grand Egyptian Museum after closing time. They aimed a quantum scanner at the mask's surface and waited. What came back on their screens made one researcher drop his coffee. Beneath the gold, hidden at the atomic level, was a name that had been violently erased. Not Tutankhamun, someone else entirely. The world's most famous artifact isn't what we thought it was. It's a cover-up, a desperate act committed 3,000 years ago under impossible pressure, and the evidence was buried so deep that it took quantum physics to expose the truth. When Howard Carter cracked open Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, the world lost its mind. Inside was a fortune that made grave robbers weep. Golden chariots, jeweled statues, a throne that could buy a small country. But the centerpiece, the thing that would define Egypt forever, was the death mask, 21 inches tall. Over 22 pounds of solid gold inlaid with turquoise and lapis. For the ancient Egyptians, this wasn't decoration, it was survival technology. Gold was the flesh of the gods. The mask's job was to protect the mummy and help the pharaoh's soul recognize its own body in the darkness of eternity. On the back, carved in hieroglyphs, was a spell from the Book of the Dead, insurance against oblivion. For decades, everyone assumed this was the pinnacle of Egyptian craftsmanship, a flawless tribute to a young king. But almost immediately, experts started noticing problems. First, the timeline didn't work. Tutankhamun died suddenly at 19, probably from infection after breaking his leg. Egyptian belief demanded he be mummified and buried within exactly 70 days. That's 10 weeks to carve a tomb, build 3 nested coffins, gather thousands of objects, and forge a 22-pound gold mask from scratch. Impossible. The tomb itself backed this up. It was tiny compared to other royal burials. The wall paintings looked rushed, unfinished. The massive stone sarcophagus had chipped corners, as if workers had to smash it through the doorway just to make it fit. Then archaeologists started examining the treasures more closely. Some of the statues had faces that didn't match Tut's features. Jewelry designed for women, objects that clearly belonged to someone else. But the mask had the biggest clue of all: pierced ears. In ancient Egypt, only children and women wore earrings. An adult male pharaoh would never, under any circumstances, be shown with pierced ears on his sacred burial mask. It violated every cultural rule. Some researchers also pointed out that the face itself looked strangely delicate, almost feminine, and the gold on the face had a slightly different tone than the rest of the headdress, a bit redder. A theory started forming in whispers. What if the priests, racing against the 70-day deadline, simply grabbed a mask made for someone else? What if they altered it, slapped Tut's name on it, and sealed the tomb before anyone could ask questions? The question became unavoidable. If this mask wasn't made for Tut, whose face are we really looking at? All eyes turned to Queen Nefertiti, Tut's stepmother, one of the most powerful women in Egyptian history. After her husband died, she vanished from all official records. Some historians believe she didn't disappear at all. She became pharaoh, ruling under a new name, the pierced ears, the feminine features. It all pointed to her. For decades, this was Egyptology's greatest debate. The mask everyone worshipped might be a hand-me-down stolen from a queen, but there was no way to prove it. No one was going to damage a priceless artifact just to satisfy curiosity. Then in 2014, disaster struck. During a routine cleaning at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, a worker accidentally knocked the mask's ceremonial braided beard clean off. Instead of calling experts, panicked staff grabbed a tube of industrial epoxy, the kind you use to fix car parts, and glued it back on. They smeared adhesive all over the golden chin. The world freaked out. Egypt's greatest treasure, which had survived 33 centuries, had been damaged by hardware store glue. The Egyptian government launched an investigation and brought in Christian Ekman, a top German conservator. His job was to undo the damage and save the mask. But Ekman saw an opportunity. For the first time ever, he could study the mask using cutting-edge technology. His team used high-resolution X-ray fluorescence, a technique that beams X-rays at an object and reads the chemical fingerprint of every atom. If the face had been cut from Nefertiti's mask and replaced with Tut's, the scan would show it. Different gold alloys, solder marks, seams. They scanned every inch for months. The results came back and Egyptology sighed in relief. The mask was not altered. The gold in the face perfectly matched the gold in the headdress. Same batch, same composition. The slight color difference was just artistic choice or a trick of light. The nameplate spelling Tutankhamun was original, no evidence of another name scraped underneath. And the final proof was brilliant. The delicate blue glass stripes around the eyes and on the headdress were completely intact. If a new face had been soldered on, the heat over 1500 degrees Fahrenheit would have instantly cracked or melted that glass. But the glass was flawless. The conclusion was unavoidable. The mask was made as one piece specifically for King Tut. The Nefertiti theory was dead. Ekman's team carefully removed the epoxy and reattached the beard using beeswax, the same natural adhesive the ancient Egyptians would have used. Case closed. Mystery solved. The tour guides updated their scripts. The history books were rewritten. Everyone accepted this. Until a small group of physicists refused to let it go. They argued the problem wasn't Ekman's data. It was his technology. X-rays are amazing at seeing density, cracks, different metals. But what if the ancient artisans were smarter than that? What if they used gold from the exact same batch to plug the ear holes? What if they hammered the original name flat and recarved it without adding new metal? What if the face was attached with such precision that the seams were only a few atoms thick? X-rays would see all of this as one solid, uniform object. They can't see the history of metal. They can't tell if one section was reheated, worked, and cooled again. To see that, you'd need a completely different kind of technology. And in 2024, that technology finally existed. It's called quantum resonance imaging. Instead of taking a picture, it fires quantum particles at an object. These particles ping individual atoms like sonar. By reading the echo, the machine builds a three-dimensional map, not just of the material, but of its molecular structure and thermal history. It can tell the difference between metal poured once and metal that was cooled, reheated, hammered, and cooled again. It can find a seam only atoms thick. A secret team working under the code name Project Osiris got permission to test their expensive new scanner. They wheeled it into the Grand Egyptian Museum after closing time in late 2024. They weren't expecting to find anything. This was just a technology demonstration. For hours, the only sound was the low hum of the machine as it scanned the gold one atomic layer at a time. Then the scanner focused on the cartouche, the oval containing Tut's name. The first images appeared on the laptop. The team leader dropped his coffee. The quantum scan revealed thermal ghosting all around the edge of the mask's face, a molecular signature proving that the gold in that exact outline had been superheated to a different temperature than the surrounding headdress. Ekman was right, that soldering from the front would crack the glass. But the ancient artisans didn't work from the front. They attached it from behind using high-pressure heating that left the front flawless. The X-rays missed it. The quantum scan saw the molecular stress. The face had been cut out and replaced. The scan on the earlobes was even more shocking. The quantum scanner found two perfect cylindrical plugs. The craftsman had filled the original pierced holes with gold rods from the exact same alloy, then hammered and polished them so perfectly the seams became invisible. But the quantum scan picked up the difference in the metal's grain structure. The ears had been plugged. But the discovery that made the entire team freeze was the name. The quantum scan looked deeper than the X-rays ever could. It examined the atomic displacement beneath the surface and found that the gold in that spot had been hammered, flattened, and scraped in a way the rest of the mask had not. The original hieroglyphs had been beaten into oblivion. And then the quantum scanner did something incredible. By mapping the faint microscopic traces of the original hammering, the ghosts of the first inscription, the computer digitally reconstructed what was once carved there. The team ran the program. The original hieroglyph slowly appeared on the screen. It was not Tutankhamun. The name was Nefer-Nefer-Uaten. The official throne name, Queen Nefertiti, used when she became pharaoh. The Nefertiti theory wasn't just true. It was now proven at the atomic level. The full story became clear. When King Tut died suddenly, there was no mask ready. His successor, the powerful Eye, likely stole Tut's grand tomb for himself.
And some people would say that 70 days is not long enough to create an object as fine as this, in which case the only way it could have ended up among the burial equipment of Tutankhamun was if it was already available.
Panicked priests, racing against the 70-day deadline, grabbed the burial mask of the previous pharaoh, Nefertiti. They went to work fast. They plugged her pierced ears. They cut out her face and skillfully attached a new face of the boy king. They hammered her royal name flat and recarved it with his. They sealed the tomb, and the secret stayed buried for 33 centuries. The mask now sits in the museum, seen by millions every year. But now we know the truth. The face everyone recognizes isn't Tutankhamun at all. It's the ghost of a queen, hidden beneath a layer of gold so thin it took quantum physics to see through the lie. What do you think of this discovery? Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit that subscribe button, because when they start scanning other artifacts with this technology, you'll want to be the first to know what else we've been wrong about.